The following program will make you want to grow things and experience new and wonderful dreams about your plants, garden, and garden design. Listener participation is always strongly advised. Good evening and welcome to Down the Garden Path with your hosts Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board right now, send us an email. Our email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, right to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to this episode of Down the Garden Path, where we discuss down-to-earth tips and advice for your plants, gardens, and landscapes. As landscape designers and gardeners, we think it is important and possible to have great gardens that are low maintenance, and we want to help you make it happen. I'm Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and owner of Down to Earth Landscape Design. I've been designing beautiful landscapes for homeowners east of Toronto for over a decade. With me across Zoom tonight is Matthew Dressing. Welcome, Matthew.
Welcome, Joanne. Good evening, everyone. I'm Matthew Dressing, horticulturist and landscape designer and owner of Natural Affinity Garden Design. Natural Affinity is a landscape design and garden maintenance firm servicing Toronto and the Eastern GTA. Joanne and I enjoy hosting Down the Garden Path each week, bringing you interesting, relevant, and helpful topics to help you achieve a great garden. We learn right along with you from each other, from our research, and from the guests that join us here on the show. As always, we welcome your questions via social media, email, or phone call.
That's right. And we want to thank everyone, as usual, for joining us on the live recording of Down the Garden Path. Thank you for joining us here on Reality Radio. You can always check out past shows of Down the Garden Path on your favorite podcast app. And while you're there, please subscribe so that you'll be notified of new content and, for example, when this show will be loaded up. So please share, share, or leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
And tonight, as we continue our new month and new topic here on Down the Garden Path, this month we are talking with garden authors. Mm-hmm. So we have some interesting and informative titles lined up to explore with you and their authors this month. And tonight, we head back to our bookshelves to take a closer look at Houseplant Party, fun projects and growing tips for epic indoor plants by author Lisa Eldred Steinkopf. Want to join the conversation? Have a question for Lisa? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what zone you are and what city you're writing from. Write us here in studio at instudio101@gmail.com.
That's right. And let me tell you, welcome Lisa back to the show. She was with me several years ago. I don't know what the date was, but Lisa is the houseplant guru. And she features all things houseplants on her blog, thehouseplantguru.com. Lisa grew up in rural Michigan, mid-Michigan, where being immersed in nature every day nurtured her love for all things outdoors, especially plants. Living down the road from her grandmother meant spending a lot of time there and watching her lavish attention on her African violets and other houseplants. This is where the love for them began. Being an avid outdoor gardener as well has led to a column for Michigan Gardener magazine. In addition, she has written for hgtvgardens.com, marthastewart.com, oprahmagazine.com, Real Simple Magazine, Better Homes and Gardens, Horticulture, Fine Gardening, and the houseplant section of Allan Armitage's Greatest Perennials and Annual app. I have that app. She lectures extensively around the country, spreading the word about the importance of houseplants and how to care for them. Tonight, we are talking about Lisa's new book, Houseplant Party. Houseplant Party, Fun Projects and Growing Tips for Epic Indoor Plants is a fun book about not only growing plants, but making projects that will add to the beauty of your plants. Have fun with your plants. The projects include building shadow boxes, air plant displays, macrame, and so much more. There is something for every age and crafty level. It includes basic plant care and more advanced techniques such as bonsai and grafting cactus. And as Lisa likes to say, a green thumb is something anyone can have because everyone needs a little green in their lives. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. We're happy to move our gardens, start talking about all the inside gardening that we're getting ready for, aren't we?
I'm always indoor gardening. I do outdoor gardening as well, but I'm not one of those people that move all my plants outside. I am today because I'm taking advantage of this nice weather and I'm cleaning my sunroom. So I've been moving plants out to the patio, and I would not want to do that every spring and fall. I could not. It's too much. I have too many.
Is your sunroom then like a 4-season sunroom?
Yes, it is, and it's pretty big, and it's full of. You can't walk in it. You can now because all the plants are out right now.
Because all the plants are outside.
A lot of them are outside. I'm trying to rearrange and make more room. It's not working.
Well, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about your blog, the Houseplant Guru?
I love to blog. I was so scared to do it. I started way back in 2012, and I made my kids read they were English majors, read every one when I'd started, make sure it's okay. And now it's just because I just loved it. I just want to write about plants, and I want everybody needs a plant, or I say, or 100 in their house, which is pretty common now. It wasn't then, but kids and young people love houseplants, and I just want them to help. I want them to be successful. So I started writing a blog.
Excellent. And it took off?
It took off. I'm doing, yes, it's doing very well right now. I'm happy with how it's going, and it's fun.
It's amazing. Do you ever feel like if you're going to run out of content?
Some days I'm like, I should go back. I heard, I was talking to someone today that's like, we have spreadsheets of what what's on our blog. And I'm like, oh boy, I probably should do that, because sometimes I'm probably repeating myself, but not everybody's going way back in the old content. So I don't worry about it. I have so many plants in this house. I don't think I could ever run out of content.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and things change so much. I know Matt and we've recently been talking about the podcast, and is there anything more to talk about, right? And we come up with this whole list of a whole nother year of topics. So it's oh, I guess there is something more to talk about.
And people forget about what you've talked about, they forget. I forget it yesterday.
Yeah.
I missed a radio show one time. So let's, not too long ago. So you're lucky I'm here. People forget. So, and even sometimes even if you're repeating it, it's still probably different pictures and a different plant. Even if it's the same kind of, topic, I think it's all relevant.
Yeah. And I think even if somebody's listening to it for the second time, they're at a different level that second time, right? They've got different questions or different things. So I think it's a lot of information to absorb. So I think that's the horticulture, anything from houseplants to outdoor plants. I think there's always lots to talk about.
Everybody has a different take on it too. So
yeah, definitely. And different things happen at different times, right?
Right. Yes. I know a while ago, everybody was showing their night blooming, Sirius blooming. And I have one, and it's never bloomed. And I'm like, oh, mine was blooming. And I went out, and it obviously bloomed a couple nights before, and I didn't know it because it was behind all the other plants that are in that sunroom. And all I found was the dead blossom. I'm like, oh, I missed it. But yeah, things kind of happen at the same time every year. And
yeah.
John has just quickly written in. He says, hello, I'm a fan of Lisa's. I have one of her books. Love her work. Thanks for having her on the show, John. Oh, and I live in Ottawa, Ontario.
Ah, there you go.
John.
That's great.
I thought for a minute my husband was emailing in or something. I'm like, he wouldn't do that. So he's working.
The last name's
they're still working.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Thank you, John.
So we have Houseplant Party. Tell us about Houseplant Party. How did you start Houseplant Party? Did it evolve from the Houseplant Guru blog, or?
I started, I had done the book about the house, just regular house plants, and then the glow in the dark. And then I'm like, let's do some projects. They've learned about plants through my books, right? They've got plants. Let's do some projects that they can do for their plants, right? We did some macrame. I've always macramed. So when it came back, I was very excited. Now you can find the thread again, or the cord. It's like, yay. So I've always macrame. So we did a macrame holder. We did one with what I like is we did some recycled items. Like you can make a macrame holder with just 10 knots out of an old t-shirt.
Oh.
So, it shows you cut it into strips, and it shows you how to tie, and you could have a plant hanging up in 10 minutes. if you have a place to hang it. Right. Yeah. And then we, my one thing I've done for a long time is used old table knives, and we paint them and make plant stakes out of them. And in the book, we used like Scrabble tiles, and you could put grow or, ficus, fern, Fred, Ethel, whatever everybody names their plants nowadays.
Right.
I couldn't even have enough names to name every in this house.
Oh, I couldn't do it
so,
either.
You could put your plant's name in it, and you can either just paint it, just use an old table knife, paint it. We put little charms on it. We used the little Scrabble tiles. That was kind of cool. So it was fun to make some propagators, shadow boxes for your air plants.
And I asked you about kokodamas. I'm like dying to do kokodamas. We were supposed to, before our garden club got locked down, like that we can't meet, we were supposed to have a workshop on kokodamas. And I was like, and a lot of the ladies were like, what? I don't need another plant, and I don't need another hanging, something. And I was like super keen. Yeah. So I was disappointed that workshop got canceled. But
you can either hang them, or because a lot of people hang them. A lot of them in the windows. It's called string gardens. So they'll have a whole bunch of them. Or you can just put them in a nice antique bowl, or some kind of shallow dish, and display them that way. You don't have to hang them.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Yes. I have them both ways.
Do you? Okay. And I have the perfect plant for it too.
Yeah. What do you have?
I have one of the fern. I don't know what variety of fern it is, but it's a common one that I see in a lot of pictures of kokodamas. A really fine. It was a fern. I think it was in like a Christmas, and when you get those mixed arrangements. Yeah. And that survived and thrived. And so it's been doing really well in my kitchen. But I look at it and go,
you could just read it. You could do it, go out and get the stuff and do it tomorrow.
I think so. I think I need to do that. Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a different way to do it. I hang them on the front porch in the summer. I have spider plants and ferns, and I've done it with like a few little mini fuchsias. So you can hang them out on the front porch. It's so cute.
Spider plants too? Could you do them with spider plants?
You can do it with any plant. People do them with orchids. Yeah, the spider plant's cool because then you have all the little airplanes going everywhere.
Definitely.
Yeah. I do asparagus fern, spider plants, pothos, anything. You can do anything.
Okay.
Very cool.
That is very cool.
Very cool.
Oh my goodness. What's your favorite? Like, do you have
the kokodama ball?
Or no, you're just of the projects in there. What is your?
Well, I love macrame, but I really like. We took these little wood rounds. I just, I got them at the local craft store. Just like a little slice of wood, and then we took a test tube and glued it to it.
Okay.
And then we put a little picture hanger on the back of the. We did that first on the back of the wood. Because after you put glass on it, you probably shouldn't use a hammer too.
Right.
So with a little picture hanger on it, and then you glue the test tube to the front, and then you could make like a whole wall of them and just propagate your plants in them.
Oh, cool idea.
That would be cool. And could you add like magnets instead and kind of put them on the fridge?
Put them on the fridge. Yeah. So that those are very cool. I have a couple of those hanging in the house. So that's fun. People like to propagate, make new plants. I don't do that a lot because I don't need any more plants.
Right.
My husband's like, what are you doing with that piece of plant that just fell off? To put it in my little propagator. What for? Are you making more plants? No, I'm not, honey. Not making more plants. So yeah, I thought that was a fun project. And then we made like a little, I use it for an air plant, but you could use it for any plant. And we use another wood round, a bigger one, and put cup hooks on it. And then use rings, like brass rings. I don't know what people would make, like dream catchers out of them, the rings.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so rings, and you put them, you hang this piece of wood in the middle of it, and then we kind of like tied it at the top and did something decorative, and it's like a little swing for your plants.
Oh.
I have a big and it's like on the front of the book. Mine has a big Xerographica Tillandsia on it, but you could put like a little 4-inch plant. You could actually set a plant on it. So it's another way to hang your plant.
Yeah.
That's not just macrame.
Oh, that is neat.
Something different.
And the timing of your book coming out, so it came out in August.
Yes.
So that's great. I'm glad we get to talk about it now because I think that sounds like a great Christmas gift idea.
Yes, you would, and I think it's good for any. I mean, I think you could. I think it's geared to maybe to little, older young adults, but I think teenagers and like preteens could do it too. I know some of the projects in here my niece and nephews could do, and they're 10, 11. So
excellent.
I think they would have fun doing it.
I think as we're looking for things to do this fall and winter inside projects, right?
Yes.
That it would definitely make a great, anybody who's gardening or interested in gardening, then combine it with, projects. So that's great. And Matt, looks like we have some listener questions.
We do have a couple of listener questions. Cara has written in, "Hi, I'm a new listener from Las Vegas, Nevada. How do we know the best way to see if all of our houseplants are getting enough water? Thank you."
How do we know if they're getting enough water?
Yeah, and like maybe the best method to kind of just know, I think, is maybe what Cara is asking.
I am a big proponent of just stick your finger in the soil. I'm not a big fan of those meters because I think they sorry, if there's soluble salts from your fertilizers in your soil, it can kind of throw them off. And I had someone tell me once that they kept putting it in there and it said it was dry, and so they kept adding water, but their plant was wet. Okay, all right, common sense. But stick your finger in there. If it's dry down to your second knuckle, you can lift your plant, like water it, and then lift it if it's a small pot. And it's like, okay, that's what it feels like when it's full of water. And then the next week you check it, and you're like, oh, now it's it feels a little lighter, but it still feels like it has water in it, and then when it lifted again and it's light, then water it. And you always water everything till the water comes out your drainage hole. You should have a drainage hole. That's my number one. You don't need any drainage material, just a hole. I put a little piece of screen over it, but you don't have to. And water everything, cactus, succulents, ferns, water lovers, desert plants, all the same till the water comes out the hole. The difference is how long before you water that cactus again. You may water your fern next week again, but you may not water that cactus, for 2 months. Right. So always water everything till the full water comes out the bottom. You can kind of tell sometimes if a plant is wilting or if it's wrinkled like a succulent, it may need water. But I just really think the best way to do it is to stick your finger in it. Or if it's a large pot, I tell people if it's a really large pot, what's going on in the bottom of the pot may not be what's going on at the top of the pot. Like if you stick your finger in it, like let's say a 14 or 14-inch pot, big pot with a big, huge fiddly fig in it. If you stick your finger in it to the second knuckle, it may be dry, but it still may be wet at the bottom of the pot. So I use a dowel and I stick it clear to the bottom and leave it sitting there and then pull it out after a couple minutes. And if the bottom of the stick is wet, don't water it. If it's dry, water it.
Nice. So I often say like a little wooden cooking spoon for some of the pots. Yeah, just to kind of get down to the lower pot. Yeah, a dowel is a great idea though, because you can get them in some good lengths.
Right. Because I've seen a lot of people, they think that their plant is dry or it needs water, and then they pull it out and the bottom is completely wet, even though the top is a little bit dry because it's a very large pot, and you can't stick your finger in it and find out what's going on down there. So.
And pot shape too, because some of them like are really wide at the top and then really narrow. So exactly that, like all that water that you're putting now is like almost like a funnel.
Right.
And I've heard about a chopstick too, like you can dip a chopstick, so any kind of
wooden something.
If you use your cooking spoon, like Matthew said he did, you want to be careful if you've got fertilizer or insecticide in there not to use that spoon to cook.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But something wooden is good.
Yeah.
To make sure that if it's wet, at the bottom.
Yeah, for sure.
And I insert the handle of my cooking spoon.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. And I also, if you have a pot without a drainage hole, I'm a huge proponent of a drainage hole. So I get my diamond tip drill bit out and I drill a hole. I did a reel on, I've never done a reel before ever in my life on Instagram, and that one has been watched like 16 or 19,000 times or something.
Really?
And it's just me drill a hole in the bottom of your pot. I've never, knock on wood, broken a pot with a diamond tip drill bit. Works wonders.
Okay.
Can go through, I think it probably can go through glass, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
And so what pot material have you used with your diamond tip drill bit? Just like ceramics, terracotta,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff?
If I get a pot, a lot of the pots come now that don't have drainage holes in them, and people are like, well, I'll just hope that works, and I'll give it a little bit of water. You never, without a drainage hole, you don't know what's going on in the bottom of the pot, if it got all the way through or if it didn't, only watered it halfway down. So I just think, unless it's some antique or grandma's favorite dish that you don't want to mar in any way, but then use it as a cash bow. So if you have a pot that doesn't have a hole and you don't want to drill a hole, leave your plant in its grow pot that it came in and just slide it into there, and then take it out, water it, let it drain, put it back in that pot without a hole.
Yeah.
But don't pot. I wouldn't directly pot into a pot without a hole.
Okay. Excellent. Good advice. Thank you. That's great advice. Thank you for that question, Kara.
Michelle has also written in, oops, I was going to ask a long question tonight, but this is much more interesting.
Long question. I don't know.
I know we joke about no matter what we talk about, there's someone who has a long question.
Yes.
I know how to mow it. I mow it every day. I leave my leaves on it in the fall.
Yep.
I mow them in and leave them there.
Nice.
Mostly because I don't want to rake them all.
Yeah.
It's a very big yard.
Michelle continues, I love macrame. Does your guest have any books out about macrame projects? Thank you.
Well, thank you for asking. I just have one. Well, there's two macrame projects in the Houseplant Party. A one that's, is intricate, and it's like a regular macrame holder, and it would take you a little bit of time. And then the other one is that one with a t-shirt, where you cut a t-shirt up and you still tie knots, but it's very quick.
Oh, okay.
Just
Good.
the one. Sorry.
Yeah. So two projects in the project Houseplant Party.
Yep.
So that's
Nice.
cool. Yeah, I can see even having having a girls' night in, a houseplant party, right?
This was the whole thing when it was a party, and when we were taking the pictures, we found three young adults that lived together, three girls, and they were all going to college. And we went over to their apartment, and then we'd we were making a trellis or something, and I'm like, we need to sand the ends of the little dowels we cut. So they're like, I'm like, I gotta laugh, like we're having fun. It's a party, right? And they had so much fun. I'm like, this would be so much fun to get together and make macrame at night, or make the swing, or make those little knives. Everybody bring their own knife, and we'll get our paints out, and we'll paint them, and we'll glue stuff on them. And then COVID came. We could do it via Zoom, right?
That's right. That's right.
Do it with your, of course, do it with your kids and your people.
Yes, your bubble, within your bubble.
Your bubble, yeah, right. Right.
I love the idea about the knives and painting them, and just like putting Scrabble tiles on them, because you could go to like your local thrift store and buy like a used board game, and they've always got cutlery that's been donated or something like that.
I did. I went to the Salvation Army to get all my knives, and I looked for the biggest handle that there is, like the widest handle, so that I have plenty of room to paint or put the Scrabble. And the Scrabble tiles, you can actually you could get an old game, that'd be cool, but you can just buy them now at Hobby Lobby or any craft store. They have whole bags of them, and they have little ones and bigger ones, and
Very
so
true.
That is neat.
you could put in buttons or whatever you have in the house. Rocks.
Olga's written in. Olga says, hi, I'm just adding hi, Olga. Are there any indoor plants that do not require lots of sun or light? I live in a warehouse apartment in New York City with no windows. I wanted to get some greenery in there to give me more oxygen. What about grow lights? Would you recommend them? Thanks,
Yes.
Olga.
Yes.
Well, you've written a book. Tell Olga about your book.
Hi, Olga. I do have a book called Grow in the Dark, but it's just a play on words. We know there's no plants that will grow in the dark. right?
Okay.
It's about low light houseplants. So if you don't have any windows, none, then you definitely have to you have to get some kind of lights. You're going to have to get some kind of grow lights or leave your lights on at least 12 hours a day near your plants. Because
Okay.
I went into my friend's office and she had a ficus, which are quite highlight plants, growing in the corner of her office with no windows and only fluorescent lights about maybe, because they weren't right over it, maybe 6 feet away from it. And it had new growth on it and it was growing and it only gets light 5 days a week. I was so
Wow.
impressed. So plants will acclimate to what you have, but you still need, if you don't have any windows, none whatsoever, you're going to have some kind of light source. So yes,
Okay.
some kind of grow lights.
Any suggestion there as far as the grow lights, like getting like little lamps and a certain bulb or specifically grow lights?
Well, I grow my, I'm in an African violet group and we all use, well, not all of us, we use either T5s, T8s, fluorescent lights, or we, a lot of us have gone to the LED lights that look like fluorescent light fixtures, but they're just, they're LED lights. And we grow them we have them on shelves. Like we buy 4-foot. They're just shelves you get like at a big box store.
Okay.
They're like wire shelves and we hang the lights from them and put our plants on them. You can grow, you wouldn't need any windows or any lights at all. And you can grow every plant you'd want to grow with electric lights.
With electric lights. Okay.
Yes. So yes, that is very possible.
Okay. And could you just change the bulb? Like, 'cause I think of, tucking like an interesting lamp up on a shelf with my plants. Like, so it's a little bit more decorative.
Yes, there are so many lights out there now. They have spotlights that people get. I think it's called from Soltech. I've never used them, but I know a lot of people that do.
Okay.
It's just like a light that hangs down. It's like a spotlight and you could grow one big plant under it or one plant. There's ones that just clip on the shelves, little, like you said, little LED lights. And then there's, big metal halide lights. There's lots of I just use those LEDs to grow.
Right.
I have some cactus growing on that stand. I have a lot of African violets, some orchids. So yeah, you can grow anything under lights, but you have to have a light source. A lot of people want to grow plants in their bathroom because it's humid and it's like a rainforest. I'm like, that's all great as long as there's a window.
Yeah.
There's no window in the bathroom. You cannot grow plants unless you have some kind of electric light.
Right. Okay. Yes. I have I have low light in my house, and lots of dark corners. I'm thinking like my dark corner in my office too, where so I've been considering that for a while of trying to, cause my plants live, but I don't think they're thriving.
Right. Yeah. And lots of plants, and when I say low light plants, there's lots of plants that will survive in low light, like the old fashioned which I love, Sansevieria. People are like, you can put that in a corner. It'll live forever. Well, guess what? It really comes from a high light. If you put it in high light, it will bust out of the pot. It will bloom for you. It will grow leaps and bounds. They survive and slowly die in really low light in a corner. They start flopping and they look horrible, but they will thrive in high light. So there are plants, the ZZ plant, very low light.
Yeah.
Amazing how low light it can take. Philodendrons, pothos.
Yes, but Gary can speak too, because in the studio, his studio's in the basement, and I bought him when we first started, right, Gary?
Yep, it's doing beautiful still.
I know, and so the secret there is the fact that you're always in the basement and your lights are on.
Right.
Right.
Exactly, because there is no window near it, as you know, and it's extremely dark in the studios here, and the only light it gets is I have halogen LED lights, track lighting to light up the control room, and that's the only lights that it gets, and it's gorgeous. It's Joanne, you guys haven't seen it, but it's got to be 20 feet long.
Yes, because it's probably due to be trimmed again.
Yeah,
right? You had to trim it because it kind of took over his studio. The control room.
Beautiful though. I love
it's
it.
Controlling.
Thank you.
And it was a pothos.
Yes.
Yes. I love them. And there's so many different varieties now. It's like people collect them.
Yes.
There's so many different
that's
types
great.
of varieties and cultivars of pothos. But yeah, that's a very ironclad, what do you want to say? It's a workhorse of a plant. It's great.
So give a shout out for Olga again, the name of your book, Grow in the Dark.
Grow in the Dark.
Yes.
We might as well for low light house plants.
Okay. So there you go. So there's hope for you yet in your your apartment in New York.
Yes.
I'm just going to jump in here as we hit the bottom of the hour. For those who are listening live, maybe you're just joining us. Welcome. You are listening to Down the Garden Path here on Reality Radio 101. And as we continue our Garden Authors Month, we are joined by Lisa Eldred Steinkopf, and we are talking her new book, or her book now. Her latest book is what I'm looking for, Houseplant Party, Fun Projects and Growing Tips for Epic Indoor Plants. So if you have a houseplant question, perhaps you're a fan of Lisa's, you have one of her books, or you just have some questions or want to give her a shout out, say hi, you can write us here at instudio101@gmail.com, just like Petra did. And Petra has written in, wow, I still have the wooden spoon that my mom used to spank us with when I was a little girl. Hilarious. I'm going to start using that spoon to check the water moisture in my plants. Love the show and listening from Calgary.
That's much better use for your spoon than, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But thank you, Petra.
Yeah, thank you, Petra. That's great. And I'm so glad, Matt, that you remind everybody to tell us where they're emailing from, right? It's so great to know where everybody is.
Yeah. Yeah, I love hearing where everybody is from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Lisa, why don't you take a quick second, because I'm sure there are people who maybe missed it or are still wondering or didn't write it down. Tell us about where they can find you online. And we're talking about Houseplant Party, but you do have a couple other books they might be interested in as well.
Oh, thank you. You can find me on Instagram, and also, but my website is thehouseplantguru.com. And you can also buy, if you would like, a signed copy of my book before Christmas. So hurry. Mail's hopefully doing better. I have Houseplant Party. I have Grow in the Dark, which is about low light houseplants. And then I have the first book I did, which is called Houseplants, The Complete Guide to Choosing, Growing, and Caring for Indoor Plants. And that actually also came out in a mini version. I'm showing you guys. It's a cute little version of the big book. So I think it covers everything you need to know about houseplants. And if not, you can always get in touch with me on my website. You can contact me. My email's on there. And I do presentations when we get back to doing that. I can do Zoom presentations, which is, I haven't done one yet, but I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
So I do that, and I can talk to your groups or garden clubs, or when they start meeting again. Fun.
Excellent.
I'd like to be back in real life, as we all would.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all? That's right.
Yeah.
So everyone's always looking for hot tips on how to, what's the best way to water, for example, or, those really great tips that really take their houseplants to the next level. So with all your houseplant guru experience and houseplant party, what do you think are like one or two of your top must-know tips that maybe our listeners might not know, or maybe even some of our seasoned listeners sometimes just forget?
Okay, so most people that take their houseplants outside, right? So right now you better have brought them back in. Mine are coming back in tomorrow night. They're outside right now. But wash your windows. You're bringing your plants from outside. Hopefully you've acclimated them back into the shade a little bit if they were in full sun, because they're coming back from outside in probably 10 to 1,000 foot candles or whatever, the most bright light they can have, and coming back into our dark homes. And we're putting them, in the windows, and they're just like, oh man, what happened to that light? So to help them, first you should have acclimated them to bring them back in, which means putting them in a lower light situation before you bring them back into your home. But you wash your plants, always keep the leaves clean, and wash your windows. You can't imagine. I was washing windows today in the sunroom, and I cannot believe how much dirt was on those windows. And that dirt is blocking the sun, which is the only thing that is giving your plants food. So the only way they're eating and they're going to get more to eat if they have clean windows, clean leaves, and screens. I took the screens out because I can do that in my sunroom, because they block about 30% of your light. Screens do, and dirty screens are probably more so.
Yeah.
So clean your screens or remove them, clean your windows. And then another, I think is a good tip in the winter is we all have heat vents, obviously, and they're going full blast right now, starting to. So I had a friend, I went to her house and she has problems with spider mites. Well, think about our plants are in the windows, right? And all of our heat vents, at least in my house, are under the windows.
Yeah.
So all that hot air is blowing up onto your plants and they're drying out. Even if you keep them well watered, they're still the air around them is dry. And the spider mites are like, you just rang a dinner bell and they're just like, I don't know where they come from. They appear. So I use this, it's just a dumb little thing. It's called an air deflector or vent air deflector. And it's just a little magnetized thing that goes on my heat vent and it shoots the air out across the floor instead of letting the air go straight up. It's like a little shield that goes over the heat vent. It shoots the air out. So that is a huge, I know it's like $4 or something. Huge difference with your plants not to have a hot air blowing up on them. Make sure that you either have a humidifier going, a whole house humidifier, or you have them on pebble trays. Because, I couldn't probably do a pebble tray in every one of my houseplants because there's so many, but if you have a normal amount of houseplants, you could put a bigger saucer than the saucer your plant is already sitting on, fill it with pebbles, fill it with water, and then set your plant on top of that. Never letting it stand in the water, of course, but keep those pebbles full of water and it will evaporate and raise the humidity around your plants.
Excellent. We've talked on the show about like even if you've got like a rectangular table or square table, like a little boot tray almost. That's something that's shallow that you don't really see, but especially once you fill it with, maybe decorative pebbles, and kind of set your house plants on that. But should the holes of the house plant be in that? Like it's more for the humidity. It's not how you're watering your plants, right?
Oh, no, it's not how you're watering your plant because you don't want your plant standing in water and you want to keep those pebbles full of water. So I leave my plant in the saucer that is the correct size for the pot that it is in. Then I buy a much bigger saucer and put the pebbles in it and just leave it in its saucer and set that saucer on top of the pebbles, so that it's never standing in water.
Okay.
Because then, yes, you're going to root rot will ensue. No fun.
Definitely.
I love the pebble tray trick, and I have been trying to propagate some of my oak leaf ivies to make new cuttings, and I just couldn't do it. I had the right light and everything else, but the humidity was my issue. So I did that with my little greenhouse propagation unit that I had. I filled the lower tray with all the pebbles, and it let up the humidity into the dome. And I put the pots on that and put everything in, and it kept the humidity high enough that the cuttings actually finally took and rooted. They were just missing that little bit of humidity.
Plants are, they're used to most of them being in jungles.
Right.
So and that's another, right now, everybody's probably getting their Thanksgiving cactus. And they like extra humidity too, because those are naturally epiphytic plants growing in the Brazilian rainforest. They're not desert cacti, and they are true cacti. So you need to keep them moist, not horribly wet or anything, but they don't want to completely dry out because they'll drop all their little, they're called cladodes, their little flattened stems. They'll drop them all. I have done this. So mine are budding up right now. So that's so nice. And I don't really have a trick to get those to bloom. A lot of people say you gotta, the dark, the cold, mine just bloom and they're in a west window.
Yeah, they always say play with the daylight hours. Put them away and then bring them out.
Too much. I think it just kind of does it normally. I guess I don't have any in my room where we are all the time at night, so maybe that's they're in a dining room that I don't usually have the lights on.
Okay.
At night, but it seems to just bloom fine for me, no matter where I put it. So
that's one I haven't had luck with, but every year I'm like, so if to buy one now, like to buy a new one, should it be full of buds? Should it already be in bloom?
No, I would buy it full of buds so that, and some blooms, because unfortunately when you move them, sometimes they don't like that very much and they'll drop all their buds. And another thing is, if you have a Thanksgiving cactus, my daughter was so excited she got hers to bloom, and that she's like, Mom, it only bloomed on one side. You got to turn them all year round. And then once they start setting buds, then don't turn them anymore. But if they don't get sun on the side that's away from the window, that side probably won't bloom. So
interesting.
turn your plants.
Turn the plants.
read a long time ago, and just about turning the Thanksgiving cactus or the Christmas and the Easters, that when you turn them, if they're in bud, and I don't know, maybe you can speak to this, I don't know how true it is, but when you turn them, when the buds are there, the Christmas or the Thanksgiving cactus doesn't turn the segments of the cactus, but the flower buds will twist where they're resting or they're emerging from that segment. And that's why, as you start moving them when they're in full bud, they start to shear themselves off.
I've read that. I'm not sure that that's, I don't know, like for sure that that's true. But
yes, okay.
So I don't turn mine after they're in bud. I don't turn them anymore, just because I have read that, but I'm not positive that it's an actual, it's not an old wives' tale. I don't know.
I'm right there with you. Once they bud, I just leave them. But other than that,
that's fine.
I don't know.
You don't need to turn them after that, right? They're already, once a flower is in bud, there's nothing more. It's gonna flower unless it doesn't have enough humidity or you let it dry out. And that's another thing. When you have a plant that's flowering, like your poinsettias that you're going to be getting, your Thanksgiving cactus, cyclamen, you don't ever let a flowering plant. Don't allow it to completely dry out, because that shortens its flower life. Orchids, same way.
Yes.
You know, they need a lot of water when or not a lot. I want to say they need a lot of water. I don't want anybody to overwater give their plants too much water, but they don't want to dry out when they're in flower.
Well, I've got another couple questions that are rolling in as we steam through the hour. It's always moves so fast. But Ty has written in, thank you. I was just going to ask, so Ty's written in just after our little plug 10 minutes ago. Sorry, Ty. But he says, thank you. I was just going to ask your guest if she signs any of our books. Excellent. Great show tonight. Please stay healthy. All of you. Love your tips. Love your tricks. Ty from Oakville, Ontario.
Thank you, Ty. Yes, I can. You just, you can go on my website and then you can buy the book. And then I usually get in contact with you and ask you how you'd like me to sign it to someone, for you, not at all. Whatever works.
Yeah. Excellent.
Adam has also written in, hi from Seattle, Washington. What a really good tip. Who would have thought to wash your windows for our plants? When you talk about cleaning the leaves of the plants to bring them inside, are you talking about spraying them with just water to clean them, or water with some other mixture to use? Thank you.
I only wash my plants with water. Now I have used, because Alvin McDonald, who has written a million houseplants books and edited my first book, it's kind of a famous garden writer. He's like, you can use lemon, and I was a little scared, but it does take all the water drops. You know how you have those water marks on your white dots, and I think it coming from greenhouses, and they're using fertilizer and stuff. A lemon juice takes that off, and it doesn't seem, so far has not seemed to hurt any of my plants. But other than that, I don't use any leaf shine. I will refuse to buy for our garden center or use leaf shine. So just water.
I was going to ask you that with the leaf shine. What is your stand on the leaf shine? I'm not a fan. I say no.
No, I don't like it. I think it's clogging its pores. They say it doesn't, but I'm not convinced. So, and I don't want, and it's not even that. I don't want leaf shine. I want my plants to look natural. Unless I tell you, I don't even use filters on my Instagram. I feel guilty. Like, that's not what the plant looks like. Here's what it really looks like.
Yeah.
So unless my lighting's really bad and it looks better, and it still looks normal, I will use it. But otherwise, I don't want anything to be too shiny or
artificial.
Good for it. So, and when you bring plants in, you really need to check them for insects, for those roly-polies that come out the bottom of the pot when you're watering them. Check for all that, because it's nothing worse than getting your plant inside and then finding out, it has aphids or mealybugs or whatever scale. And now you're giving it to all your
other plants.
So, and I know
that is
Canada
a timely thing for this time of year. So in addition to anybody who's kept their plants outside, and then now are bringing them inside, so checking for insects. Any tips there? And
well, I personally put a systemic insecticide in the soil, but I know in Canada you cannot do that because you don't have them. I don't know how you live, but I don't know what I would do.
It's very difficult. No,
it is. It would be difficult. You got a mealybug breakout in your house, you're in big trouble. But you just, I got to keep at them. Just try to always check your plants and before it's a huge breakout, and you all of a sudden the whole thing is white with mealybugs. If you see one or two mealybugs, take care of them.
Yeah.
With an alcohol swab. But outside, I would, neem oil works well, or some kind of all seasons horticulture oil. Always read the label. To, that kind of smothers them. And it also kind of shines your leaves up, the neem oil, if you really want to do that. And it's natural and it doesn't hurt the plant. So that's the only thing I can tell you.
Okay.
And I have used a systemic insecticide in the soil that's made for houseplants if you live in the United States.
Yeah.
Or other.
Now, if there's flowering plants, like I think of like mandevilla or dipladenia, if you're bringing them inside to overwinter, do you recommend cutting them all the way back? Because I know, there's several things like hibiscus, some different plants that when you bring them inside, especially the flowering ones, right? They drop everything.
They drop everything. I've tried bringing dipladenia and mandevilla, and I've never had luck doing that. I don't really bring plants in from outside just because I don't have room, and plus I don't want to bring anything else into my plants. So
right.
But if you do, I would recommend, what I tell people, I've been telling people, if you want to bring something like that in, I take cuttings of it. Like take cuttings of it maybe in July or August and get them going, or even you could do it later. I mean, you could bring just cuttings in, and that way you're not worried about bringing anything in, the whole plant. It drops every leaf. If you take cuttings and start those plants, they're going to be acclimated to your home and the way you're growing. Then you can take them back out, next summer. If you don't want, because sometimes you bring in a big enormous plant, like you say, it just drops every leaf.
Yeah.
Unless you really acclimated it. So, make cuttings, because then they're young and they will come in and be used to your environment.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because I did bring in two one larger than the other foxtail ferns.
Yes.
And the larger one, just like it went yellow immediately, and was like, so it was, I just was like, okay, there's the work. Then it's like, this is a ton of work, right?
And that is my favorite. I love that fern. I love all the asparagus ferns.
Yes.
I love that one especially, but it seems like every time I love it when they're really dense and then you bring them in the house and they get stretched out and they don't even look like the foxtail fern anymore.
Yeah.
Dang it. But I do love this.
I know. So I ended up composting the one because I was like, it's just so yellow, and and the other one is doing okay, but it might.
And I have cut those back before and then forgot about them in the sunroom. Like it was just yellow and I cut it back, and lo and behold, here it came back. And I hadn't thrown the pot away, and I had cut it clear to the ground. You can do that. That's not a true fern, but you can do that with ferns too.
Right.
Then they'll usually.
Yeah. But I could could I take cuttings of that as well?
I don't know about the asparagus fern. I guess you could. I mean, I've never done that, so I wouldn't know. But
okay. It's something to think about for sure. Sure. So two more questions. Not that we can't have more. It's not like only two more questions, but
only two. No, the lines are closed. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, we love hearing from everybody. So
we do. Even when we're not here, you can always write us at instudio101@gmail.com, and we'll get the mail from Gary. He's awesome that way. Blaine has written in, hello from Halliburton, Ontario. Your guest sounds like she has a tropical paradise in her house with hundreds of plants that she has. Are there birds flying around in her house? Haha. Anyway, I know she probably has.
I've had a bird before, but I don't have one right now. But I did. I had a mourning dove. Yeah. No, I mean a ring-necked turtle dove.
So there you go, Blaine. Yes, she did. And then Blaine asks, I know she probably has some African violets. If so, what is the oldest one that she has? Blaine hears that African violets can live 40, 50, or 60 years or more. Ooh. Thank you.
I did have my grandmother's, and then unfortunately, I had when I was younger, because I had them from a long time ago. They got mealybugs, and I had little kids then, and unfortunately they died. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I guess the original plant would just keep going. I mean, we've had them. I'm in an African violet group. We've had one come in where a man's wife passed away, and he brought us her violets, and one was like huge, and we split it all up. He said she might have gotten it at their. Seems like she had gotten it at their wedding, shower.
Oh.
So they could last. I mean, you just have to. They get that long neck. You just keep taking the bottom leaves off, scraping the neck, and just keep burying it in the ground, and I'm sure it could keep going forever. Or you could take a leaf from it and make new ones.
Mm-hmm.
You only need one leaf of an African violet to make more African violets.
That's right.
So yeah, it could go on for a long time.
Yeah. Do you have, what is the oldest plant that you might have?
My oldest plant that I have right now is I have my mom's fern that she got at her bridal shower in 1957. And she got it from my great grandmother. So I don't even know how old it actually is. I just put it on Instagram, I think 2 or 3 days ago. I've had it. I have that one. Mine is, my oldest personal plant is from 1984 when I went to college, and I have a little, it started out as a 2-inch pot ponytail palm, and now it's in a, I think, a 12 or 14-inch pot, and it's as tall as me. And then I also have my fern from when I got married, a piece of mom's fern, and I just gave a piece to my daughter 2 years ago when she got married.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
That's an old fern.
Oh,
that's my
good.
oldest.
My mom gave me, so I've been married 30 years, and my mom gave me a piece of her rubber tree. So I have a 30-year-old rubber tree plant.
That is so cool. I know. I love sentimental plants. And right at this time of the year, I'm on all those Facebook. I think I'm on every houseplant Facebook page, which takes up, the rabbit hole. But there's one, with the Christmas and Thanksgiving cactus or holiday cactus one. And there's people that have them on there that are as big around as your table. And they've been in their family for 100 years or something. And they have about 2,000 blooms on them. Like, how do you get them to be that big?
Yes, I'm on that group. That's insane. It blows my mind.
It is. I mean, some of them are literally as big around as like a 6-foot table.
Oh my goodness.
Just when they droop clear of the ground from 4 feet above, and about 2,000 blooms on them. I'm just like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. No. That's amazing.
Brian has written in, I love your guest tonight. What a sense of humor. It's a pleasure to listen to her speak. I am going to purchase a couple of her books for Christmas. Thank you, from Reno, Nevada.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, that was Brian. Brian was right.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for buying my books. I appreciate it. And of course you can, if you don't want a signed copy, you can always get them on Amazon or at your local bookstore.
That's right. Okay, good. Good to know.
Yeah.
Lastly, we have, or not lastly, but next we have Chase. Chase writes in, help, I'm a new green thumb. What's the easiest plant for a guy who knows nothing about indoor plants to start growing and not killing? Thanks. Hoping in Columbus, Ohio.
All right, let's think about this. Okay, so number one, if you're in Columbus, you're very lucky because you have Baker's Acres, you have Groovy Plants Ranch, and you have Stump. All these places that have the most fabulous houseplants on the planet. So if you go to those 3 places. But your easiest plant, I mean, I don't want to tell you like a ZZ plant is easy. It can take a lot of light. It can take a little bit of light. It doesn't need a lot of water because it has really fleshy rhizomatous roots. So it doesn't, so if you're if you want to fuss over a plant all the time, then, that wouldn't be one you'd want to do. You could overwater it. And rot it. So Sansevierias are easy, especially if you have a lot of sun. They'll bloom for you. Pothos, of course, is very easy. Philodendron. Look at me. I look around.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Aglanemas are very easy, and I love them. They're beautiful. Spider plant. Lots of good plants.
Oh yeah, spider plant's kind of cool.
If you're really paying attention to a plant, I think even a hard to grow plants can be not so hard to grow if you're really, especially if you have just a couple plants and you really can pay attention to them. When you have 1,000, you cannot. So, the survival of the fittest over here. So, any plant that you like, but if you really like a plant, try it. Research it and find out what it needs. Anybody can have a green thumb. You're not born with it. I mean, you may have an affinity for plants. My grandma did, so I think I did. So we're good with plants. I married a man who owns a garden center. We're all about plants. But anybody can have a green thumb. It's all about paying attention to your plant, finding out what plant you have, where it's from, what its natural habitat is, what it really likes. You can do it.
Yeah, and knowing your conditions too, right? Like if you are a low, like if you have low light in your apartment, or if you've got a lot of bright light, then you can kind of adapt to that too.
Right. Don't go out and buy a highlight croton or a highlight cactus if all you have is a north window. You're probably setting yourself up for failure, you know. Or on the other hand, if all you have is a south window, but even if you have a south window, you can pretty much grow everything because you can move things back away from the south window, like a fern. It doesn't have to be in the window.
Right.
So that's good. But you know, don't plop your fern or low light philodendron right down in the south window and hope it doesn't burn, because it will.
That's good. Well, give it a shot. So I
Yeah,
mean, I think
find a plant.
yeah, jump in and buy a plant.
Yes, I agree. And if you're in Columbus, go to those. Yeah, you got some great resources.
Excellent. Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, why don't we give another shout out to your books as we're wrapping up. So we tonight kind of focused on Houseplant Party, fun projects and growing tips for epic indoor plants. And that's a great book for, I think, as a gift this fall, any projects with your family. So I think that's exciting. And it just came out in August. But Lisa, you've written 2 other books, Grow in the Dark.
Yes, grow in the dark, plant low light house plants. Not
Low light house plants.
grow anything in the dark. No, just a cute play on words. And then just the houseplants book just covers every facet of houseplant care.
Excellent, excellent. We'll definitely have the titles and the links to them in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And yeah, so how are we doing, Matt?
I've got no more questions.
Okay.
Great.
I think we've got some great questions in tonight, so thank you everybody who's written in. Did we have any more questions for Lisa?
Well, I could always think of questions, but
Oh yeah, me
well,
too.
I think flower. I mean, we talked a bit about the Thanksgiving cactus, but a lot of those like flowers. So, what other African violets flower?
Well, this time of year, you know, now that we're going towards the holiday, right now everybody has those great big amaryllis bulbs. If you don't have a green thumb, you don't need one because the bulb has everything in it that it needs to bloom this year. So, I mean, now they have these ones that are wax that they've cut the roots off that you just throw away later. Not mine.
Yeah. What do you think of those?
I don't want to say anything against anything.
Yeah.
Listen, no. I like to save the house plant, so I can't imagine that's like disposable. But it is kind of, they're pretty and they come in different color waxes and wow. But everything's in that bulb when you buy it that it needs to grow. So it's fail safe, right? Unless you can even grow them like in those, they have like vases where you set them in it and just the roots go down in the water.
Yes.
You could grow them hydroponically. So, and they come up and just have the most fabulous flowers. That is a fabulous gift. Anybody would love an amaryllis. And I try to buy them the bulb and maybe plant it up right before Christmas so that then they can watch it and it will bloom, you know, in January or February, instead of giving it to them blooming already when Christmas is so busy. It's kind of something to watch, because once it starts growing that stalk, it grows like, I mean, you can practically watch it grow and then it blooms and it's fabulous. So amaryllis are great. Cyclamen, if you get a cyclamen, water around the outside, not in the middle, because it has a tuber in there. And if you water it in the middle, it rots because there's a little indentation. So water around the outside of the pot. Keep it in a cool room, not near a heat vent. None of your plants want to be near heat vents, right?
Unfortunately.
And I love poinsettias, love them. I used to not like them. Now I decorate with them, like everything's poinsettia. I still have a poinsettia clock up because I love it. So those are, don't let them dry out. When you go to the store, take it out of that sleeve, those decorative sleeves. If it's standing in water, walk away.
Okay.
For another one, because now you have no idea if the roots have been compromised, right?
You know, I have to interrupt you for a minute. This is Gary, the producer. I would love for you just to turn your computer and your camera around and like do a circular, Matt, what do you call that? You know, when you go around with the camera and
panoramic?
Yeah, panorama. And just see her whole house of all those plants. I think it would be amazing. And it's too bad all your
Another
listeners.
day.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's too bad all your listeners, you know, wouldn't see that, but we would see it. It would be incredible. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt that, but that's right. Panorama. That's what I meant.
No, it's a messy house right now. I mean, if you could see it behind me is now like a sewing machine. I was making masks like a mad person. So there's all kinds of material, a sewing machine. You can't even see the plants right now.
I'm sure you have Instagram posts or Facebook posts, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I love Instagram, and I'm probably on that too much too.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad. And a shout out, do you want to cover your social media again? So definitely the houseplantguru.com.
Yes, and I'm on the houseplantguru.com. You can get to all my channels from there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You can message me, ask me pictures, or send me pictures if you have a problem with a plant. And if I know, I'll get back to you.
Yes.
Try to get back to everybody.
That's wonderful.
Follow me along on Facebook and Instagram. It's fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And please go by. I'm going to Houseplant Party Fun Projects and Growing Tips for Epic Indoor Plants. I think I got some projects. That kokodama, I definitely want to do that. So I'm excited.
That is so much fun. Messy and fun.
Yes. Yeah, so that's good.
Well, thank you, John, Cara, Michelle, Olga, Petra, Ty, Adam, Blaine, Brian, and Chase. Thank you to everybody else who also tuned in this evening. Thank you for tuning in to Down the Garden Path here on Reality Radio 101, and we will talk to you next week. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Good
having
night,
me.
everyone.
So much fun. Good night.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your host, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101.